we would have hypothesized that they would interact in such a way that we would see animals that got stressed, but psilocybin behave differently. And what we saw instead was main effects of each of we saw a main effect of psilocybin, and we actually did not see a main effect of stress. And really, throughout the paper, we never saw an interaction between stress and psilocybin. And so, yes, I do think the animals that were stressed are worse. I think what we were even more surprised to find is that even in the absence of the male stress exposure, we
Yeah.
still saw changes in the anxiety-like responses of the mice
Yeah.
that were exposed.
Yeah. And how do you start to like interpret this at an ecological behavioral level? Like I would start the way I start to think about this in my mind is, this is a sensitive period for the mother. She's naturally going to be more prone to anxiety because it's part of the defensive aggression, detect threats in the environment state she has to be in as a mother. This is basically what her brain has just been rewired to do. And just as the male is a novel or unpredictable stressor, it's an external thing coming in, disrupting, the coziness and the consistency of the nest environment. That's stressing her out and disrupting her behavior. The psilocybin itself, you could imagine it being a similar thing. She's not expecting this. All of a sudden, the quality of her experience is changing. She could be perceiving that as an external threat almost like the male.
Absolutely. And actually, we do know that even though I mentioned before that psilocybin is known to produce antidepressant anxiolytic effects in rodents, we also know that it produces an acute anxiogenic effect. And so meaning that within the first few hours that an animal is exposed to psilocybin, there is sort of a very very short rapid increase
Right.
in their anxiety responses.
Yeah.
What's different about our model is that during that experience, infants would also be there. So I think the even just the context of how the psilocybin is administered would be
Right.
really different. And then,
Right.
of course, add to that all of the changes that are happening in the
Right.
postpartum
Right.
period and this completely, I mean, the plasticity is, as we talked about before, incredibly robust
Yeah.
throughout pregnancy and in the postpartum
Yeah.
period. And now you're giving a drug that
Right.
mechanistically dramatically alters
Right.
plasticity.
Right. Right. And it's
Um,
hard not to think about human parallels here. Anyone with experience with psilocybin who's looked into this closely will know that even when it has antidepressant effects, even when the trip is good, very often for a few minutes when you're coming up, so to speak, there's this, oh God, like anxiety moment that often goes away, but not always. And when it doesn't go away, that's typically because something is instigating that. It's not difficult to imagine someone coming up on psilocybin and then thinking, oh God, I'm tripping on mushrooms, but I have to take care of my kids. Like when you think about
right.
this response, you're supposed to do these things in a safe environment where you don't have to think about responsibilities and threats and that stuff. So it kind of
Yeah.
all is making a lot of sense to me from a human perspective as well.
Yes, absolutely. And in the first experiment of the paper, we gave those injections and we looked at the behavior 24 hours later. So we really didn't see the interaction between mom and infants fall immediately following the psilocybin exposure. But in a later experiment in the paper, we did, and you absolutely do see increases in stress behaviors, regardless of in the second experiment there was no stressor.